Cover the kids' ears. We got an F-bomb. How's it going, everybody? Truck race took a while to get started thanks to about a 1 hour lightning delay. Might have taken a while to get started on the racetrack as well, but you know what? It still ended up being a pretty fun night. The truck playoffs are set. We have a strategic race that ended up having a really fun finish. The dominant car of the day, or truck of the night, I should say, doesn't get the win. You know what? I kept getting told that Richmond was boring, but I had a pretty good time with this one. So this was the 2023 Worldwide Express 250, which was 250 laps, 4 leaders, 9 lead changes, 4 cautions, all in the nice bow of time of 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 31 seconds. Now, quickly, I want to thank Tyler McGonigal, one, for being a member for a month, and one for a $4.99 super chat. That super chat saying Blue Car won Xfinity. Blue Car won trucks tonight. Will a blue car win on Sunday? I think that's a good question. There are some very good blue cars that will be racing tomorrow. And then also says Byron is in partial blue. Keep it up, Ice. Well, thank you. And yeah, he is. But yeah, we are in the playoffs now for the truck series, at least. I'm looking around right now, make sure that we can get those results set up for you. But you know what? It is pretty fun hearing an F-bomb every now and then. It's you don't hear it that often anymore when it comes to live sports. You'd hear it like in 2020 when there were no fans around at different sporting events and the mics caught everything. But you know what? I thought it was a pretty fun race. Let's get into this race. Let's look at the finishing order. Carson Hocevar, the man himself, the guy who is going to watch everyone get drunk, because I still think he's, what, isn't he 20? I got to check. Hold on. I believe Hocevar is still 20. So he'll watch everyone get drunk. Winks at the camera. Yeah, until January. But he gets the win over Ty Majeski by the span of 2 seconds, 2.308 seconds, that is. Then Zane Smith comes home third, Jake Garcia fourth, fifth is Matt Mills. Good run for Mills in his first time with the KBM truck in the 51. Then Corey Heim time in sixth place. Matt Kraft in seventh. And those are all your guys on the lead lap. I want to let you also know, everyone finished this race that started it tonight. Every single truck that started this race was running at the finish. So Nick Sanchez a lap down in 8th, Grant Enfinger a lap down in 9th, William Swalwich, which I think they said was 16 or is 16 years old, gets a top 10. Then Christian Eckes 11th, 12th Ben Rhodes, 13th Tyler Ankrum, Taylor Gray in 14th, Haley Deegan, solid 15th place run. Tanner Gray in 16th, Matty D, last car 1 lap down in 17th. After that, you got Bailey Curry 2 laps down in 18th. 19th, Raja Karuth. Then Connor Jones in 20th. Daniel Dye in 21st. 22nd, Chase Purdy. 23rd, Timmy Hill. And 24th, Colby Howard. He is 3 laps down, as is Dean Thompson in 25th. Will Rogers in 26th. Stuart Friesen, who needed a good night and ultimately put up a wet fart, comes home in 27th. 28th, Lawless Allen. 29th, Brett Holmes. Ryan Vargas, 30th, minus 4 laps. Justin Carroll, 31st, minus 5 laps. Christian Rose, 32nd, 6 laps down. Derek Lemke comes home 33rd, 7 laps down. Then you got Mason Massey, 8 down in 34th. And 10 down for Spencer Boyd in 35th. And last is Josh Rayum, 11 laps off the pace in 36. Those are the results. We're going to pop them up on top right now. There we go. If I get any wrong or anything like that, call me an idiot in the chat and I'll be sure to look. Looking at these super chats, thank you to my mother of all icebergs, saying nice hat, beat the Dirty Birds. Yes, Andrew, I believe we're on a, I want to say 8-game win streak. 5-1 right now. Cubs beating the St. Louis Cardinals. Real fun time there. And then thank you to the gun. Cubs up 5-1. Yep. We got the confirmation against the Cards. Bottom of the 7th. They are 4 games out of first. Nice. I love it. I love it. I love it. Looking in the chat here, see anyone else. If anyone else has anything fun to say here, Timmy, live. I love that. IDK players in here. Well, hey John. Hope the night at the fairgrounds has been good for you. I saw it raining a little bit earlier. I saw it on this end too. There was golf ball size hail about 10 miles north of us. But you know what? Let's get into this race. You guys came for the post-race coverage. Let's get into the race. Ty Majeski would start on the pole. That race, of course, would not start until about an hour late thanks to the lightning delay, which means we would have been here an hour ago if it wasn't for the damn lightning. But it wouldn't be a NASCAR weekend without weather getting in the way in some way. Really nothing much happened in stage 1. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. Tanner Gray was slow on the track for a little bit, but he really didn't go on pit road. It was like half a lap that his truck didn't have power. There really wasn't much to that stage. Majeski would win it pretty easily. Ben Rhodes in second. Heim in third. Fourth was Eckes. Fifth, Crafton. Swalwich in sixth. Garcia seventh. Purdy in eighth. Ninth, Mills. And 10th, Matty D. But then going to stage 2, you started getting a little more, interesting stuff. So on lap 80, you have the restart where Chase Purdy gets a penalty for jumping out of line early in a restart violation, has to go down pit road, and looking at the finishing order, I don't think he recovered much from that. I could be wrong. But that ultimately put him 2 laps down from the get-go of stage 2. And he came home 22nd on the night. So pretty much ended his night right there and then. From there, you had on lap 111, Dean Thompson get around, which gave Zane Smith the free pass award. Zane Smith, on the other hand, did get a bit of a recovery, coming home 3rd. So, tale of 2 nights from both of them. After that, you get the restart on lap 117, give or take. I was a little fuzzy taking the notes on these laps, so forgive me if I'm a lap or 2 off. But Heim would get the lead. Caution comes out for a spin from Justin Carroll. And on lap 125, it's Heim versus Rhodes. But Ty Majeski ends up getting the lead because he was just the fastest guy out there all night. Finishing the stage, Majeski would get the win with Rhodes in second, Heim third, fourth was Eckes. Then fifth was Hocevar, sixth Garcia, Crafton seventh, Swalwich in eighth, ninth Sanchez, and Mills 10th in the stage. Brings us to the final stage, setting up, honestly, a really, really fun finish. Starting out, the 98 would be too fast entering pit road when they went down for pit stops, putting them all the way back. And remember, when you speed on pit road, you're not to the back of the guys who are the lead lap trucks. You're to the back of the field. And so he gets shuffled all the way to the back of the field with 100 to go, 101 to go, give or take. They're having their restart. Hocevar is in the lead at this point. And Majeski just starts flying. Speed of light, speed of sound, whatever you want it. He was the fastest guy out there. He goes from 21st on the restart, behind everybody in the pack, all the way up to 5th in less than 40 laps, which at Richmond, those laps go by in, 20, 21, 22 seconds? So he is basically playing with the AI on easy mode on NASCAR Thunder 04 at this point. With 52 to go, you start seeing those who are cutting the final stage in half. You got Matt Mills pitting first to do so. Hocevar then pits once Majeski, who's been flying at this point, who was 6 seconds back, and then maybe 20 laps later was 2 seconds back. Once he hits about 2 seconds back, you got him pitting, going down pit road, playing the strategy game. The 99 ended up with a commitment line violation, which would pretty much screw his night and any chance of a win. But Majeski would take a really odd strategy. His strategy would be to stay out the entire time and try and rely on that speed. The problem is that at Richmond, tire reliance is so important that it ultimately made him one of the slower trucks on track. I remember going in 2021 to Richmond, and during the Xfinity race, I want to say it was Tommy Joe Martin, or it might have been one of his cars, was maybe a 15th, 20th place car all day, but at the end of the second stage, took tires, charged through the pack, and almost won the stage. That is the power of tires here at Richmond, and you saw it on full display where Majeski, the fastest truck out there, was basically a moving chicane for everybody. And with that, with 4 to go, Hocevar catches up to the 98, takes about half a lap, but down the back stretch into turn 3, gets on underneath him, and at that point, that's all she wrote. He gets the win from there. Majeski with a really disappointing second place run. And you go from there. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the super chat name in there. That is, that's a name. That's a name. Really quick, looking at those super chats. Chrome Diesel, thank you for the 2. Saying Heim time sounds like saying it in German. Okay. And poop butter on toast. So peanut butter on toast. Thank you for your first super chat in the channel for 99 cents. That's a name. That is indeed a name. A name. It is one of the names of all time. But with Hocevar getting the win, of course, you know Carson Hocevar, after so long struggling to get a win, is going to make those celebrations really fun. Literally, and I'm not being a Gen Zer here and using literally in the wrong sense, literally starts burning down his truck because of the mud flaps on the back, thanks to the rain package for the Truck Series on the shorter tracks under a mile. They catch fire as he's doing the burnout. The truck just starts burning, and he's waving over the his crew and probably some of the fire guys too, but jumps up onto the catch fence, starts shaking it, celebrating with the fans, and then my favorite part, and maybe, you know, this might make me like an immature 16-year-old, drops an F-bomb on live TV. I love it. I hope NASCAR doesn't penalize him. I know on cable the rules are different than if it were big NBC or big Fox, so I think he'll be fine. But I like that stuff, man. You know, he's not gonna drop it every single week or anything. He's only 20. Like, let him have it. I mean, if you saw any of the early stuff that I did live streams on YouTube, I cussed way more than that. So I thought it was fine. And you see Noah Coleman in the chat. Get the effing fire extinguisher. Yeah, the old Richard Petty quote from the 1992 Hooters 500. But overall, I thought it was a pretty fun race. I like that Richmond, you know, Richmond used to be the action track is what they'd call it. And you'd have the moments, you know, like Earnhardt Jr. and Kyle Busch, where Jr. spun him, or Kyle Busch spun Jr., and then Jr. got his revenge later that year. You had, you know, the little scuffle between Ricky Rudd and Kevin Harvick. You had all these really action-packed moments, but as the track has aged over time, I do like the direction it's went as being a strategy track instead of just a rock'em sock'em, you know, bigger Bristol, but not as good Bristol. You know, I do like those old races, but it's fun seeing the teams have a full kind of participation in who gets the win, who's up front, all of that. It's something that is hard to come by in the stage era of NASCAR, and I wish more fans would appreciate it, because there was a span where Richmond, from I'd say about 2014 to through the 550 package years, was probably one of the more boring tracks. I think it's not going too far out of the way to say that, but it's become something in and of itself that's different than Bristol, different than Martinsville, maybe similar a little bit to if they brought Iowa back, but still pretty fun. There's a good racing throughout the night, a lot of passing, comers and goers, strategy both with fuel and tires, and I think we'll see more of it tomorrow. But I thought, what I liked too about tonight is that every truck finished. It wasn't a stupid, just, you know, rack them, stack them, and crash them. It was an actual race tonight. It was really fun to watch. It wasn't just a demolition derby. So, you know, call me a NASCAR shill, call me what you will. I didn't mean to rhyme there. But I had fun with it. Looking at the super chats here, Garabuki for 10. Carson's talent is really starting to get refined now. Put him in basically anything these days, and he's one of the fastest. Trucks, Xfinity, and even that Cup start. So cool to watch his progression. Yeah, and if the rumors are true, he might be moving up to that 8 car for JRM. He deserves it. He definitely deserves it. He's got a great personality too. And I hope that he doesn't get, kind of beat down by the corporate sponsor side at any point. I hope he lets that personality fly. But I would not be surprised if he goes up to Xfinity next year in a JRM car and is in the Final Four at the end of the year. I think he's one of the most talented young drivers coming up. He's only 20, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, I know there's drivers like Kyle Busch and Joey Logano that have made it up to Cup before that age or at that age, but those are also generational talents. So I hope that Hocevar keeps on this track, because I think that a personality and a driver like him is really good for the sport. And I saw somebody way earlier before we went live saying, imagine if Carson Hocevar and Ross Chastain were teammates. Those two, I've seen those two at the track a lot around each other. I don't know if Ross is more of a mentor to Carson or if they just get along really well. They have a very similar driving style. But I think that those two would be a good fitting together. I think they're very similar, and I think that, yeah, there could probably be clashes, especially if Carson starts being really competitive when he gets up to Cup one day. Or when he gets up to Cup, I should say, one day. But I think it'd be a really good fit. Looking in the chat here, too, he will be on Door Bumper Clear this week, which, you know what, good on him, because they've ripped him, in my opinion, unfairly before. Sometimes fairly, but a lot of times unfairly. And good on him for coming in and facing the fire in the lion's den, man. I agree. A lot of people saying Brandon Jones has been a disaster. Yeah, Jones, with 5 races left, is probably going to miss the playoffs in a car that is either finished like first or second almost every year, winning, multiple races a year. So I wouldn't be upset if he took that car either and somebody else worthy took the 8 car. I don't like the pay-to-play drivers, and it's crazy because Jones last year honestly wasn't that bad, but he's just been awful this year. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him move up the ranks. I think he's gotten everything he could get out of the Truck Series, so at this point you might as well take that graduating step to the next level of the ladder. Looking at, it just went off on me. Hold on one second. Looking at the rest of the results here. Anyone else that kind of pops up? Matt Crafton in a 7th place finish. Continues his streak. Never missed the playoffs ever since it's been introduced into the Truck Series. Crafton's been around in the Truck Series, I want to say, is it 20 years now? Or over 20 years? It's got to be around 20 years or so, because I remember he was around before I started watching, and I started watching back in 2005. So let me look and see. Crafton, good Lord, he's been around since 2001. So, take out that one start in 2000, he's had 23 full-time seasons. So that's insane. I mean this in the nicest way, like Noah Coleman says, Crafton is a dinosaur compared to so many in the Truck Series. Because I remember him being part of that generation going for the Truck Championship with guys like Ron Hornaday and Mike Skinner and Todd Bodine, guys like that. All-time greats in the Truck Series. He was racing against like Jack Sprague back in the day, so don't roast the man. The fact that he's been this good, yeah, Ted Musgrave. I mean, the fact that he's been this good and outlasted so many people, good on him, man. Good on him. I've never minded Crafton. I like him. It's nice having that old veteran in the field, and I hope he puts up a real fight, and it's not just a one and done kind of thing for him. I hope he puts up a real fight. I see. Yeah, Johnny Benson. Speaking of Johnny Benson, I don't know if y'all heard, but with Paul Tracy being taken out of the car for the SRX, Johnny Benson is actually going to be racing this week for the SRX this coming Thursday. So that's going to be really fun to see. He was the pace car driver, I know the first year, I know about the second year of the SRX, and I actually got to meet him and talk to him a bit. Me and Darian did at the fairgrounds last year, and just as good of a guy and as nice of a guy as you see on TV when he was a driver. I like Johnny Benson. I hope he wins this week. Like, if it can't be Ken Schrader winning, I hope it's Johnny Benson. But awesome news, a fun night. Robert C4 in the chat, thank you for being a member for 3 months, saying, put Hocevar in a Haas car. If he does good, we know. Well, I'd be fine with that. I hope he doesn't get pushed up too fast. But I think that's gonna be a lot of fun to see him progress. And again, I think it's really cool seeing Crafton up there in 7th, Mills up there in 5th with the first start with KBM. Good opportunity for him. I think he took pretty good advantage of that opportunity tonight. Going back through Swalwich again, which I need to check. Did they say he was 16? Because if that's true, it's pretty impressive how much he was staying up with them. I think they said he was, because he's only been racing tracks under a mile, I want to say it is the rule in NASCAR. If it's over a mile, you have to be, I think, 18 and older. If not, you have to be 16, or you can be 16 to 18 to race less than a mile track. But good run for him, too. Looking back a little more, DiBenedetto does what he has to make sure he stays in. He was in pretty good, pretty safe before the race, but doing what he has to do. Haley Deegan with a 15th place run. And I think this is about the first time all season that I can say Haley Deegan has finished a relatively good finish for her, but worse than she could have. The strategy, I think, kind of took her out of it a little bit, but she probably had a top 10 car. When they were showing some of the lap splits, there was even a few laps there. I was looking when I paused it, and she was running top 10, top 8, sometimes near top 5 speeds. Now, tires might have had something to do with it, whatnot, whatever. But she was running and had legit speed tonight. And to me, that is improvement. I said in a bit of a rant after the Nashville race, I wanted to see improvement out of Haley Deegan. That is, again, baby steps, but still improvement. Now, it's taken 2 to 3 years to do this. I don't think so. But I would rather take late development when it comes to being in the Truck Series and seeing some kind of different driver than the one that's just been in the back, than none at all. So good on her. And I think she could have easily had a top 10. She probably should have had a top 10 tonight with the speed she had. But that's the issue with having a qualifying be so poor and then have to be stuck in the back with somebody as fast as Majeski. I think if she qualifies 8 to 10 spots higher and there's not a car, or a truck, I should say, as fast as Majeski was tonight, if it's a little more even towards the front, he probably stays on the lead lap and is competing even with what happened tonight with strategy for that top 10. Looking here, Napa Racing Fan 927's asking in here 2 questions. How did Sam Mayer win? Through pure chaos and possibly oil on the track. But still pretty fun. You should watch the highlight reel of that. It was a really fun finish. And the CW, yes, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, starting in 2025 through 2031, is going to the CW for every single race. I can already hear anyone who might not know about this saying, "What the hell?" And I was the same way. I woke up in the morning yesterday and I opened up my phone, started scrolling through, and I had maybe 5 or 6 messages of people going, "Is this true or is this a Slurn bomb?" But it was Adam Stern, others like Bob, everyone else kind of reporting it. NASCAR's going to the CW. Now, the CW is rebranding right now. If you're like me, you think of it for really crappy daytime television and bad special effects for superhero shows with varying quality of storytelling. My brother used to watch the Flash show, and that's what I think of when I think of the CW. But they've been channeling those shows out and actually have been putting a big emphasis on sports, live sports. They are the ones who broadcast Live Golf in America. Say what you want about Live Golf. I have my opinions. But they also, I think, have the ACC football, and will have a lot of Clemson games now. And now they're getting the Xfinity Series, and it's on a channel that I think, if I remember right, they said is in 125 million homes across America. If you remember some of the stuff we talked about on NWP and in some of my videos, We talked about how FS1, ESPN, these sports channels, these cable channels, even USA, they're really diminishing when it comes to viewers and those who have those channels. Whereas the big channels, Fox, NBC, ABC, CBS, and now CW, which isn't as big as those four when it comes to, I would say, what's the word? Notoriety, and probably even the amount of homes that they're in, but is still bigger than anything else. They're basically like the redheaded stepchild of major broadcast networks. But they'll be in more available to anyone. Every single week of the year, starting in 2025 through 2031, between Cup or Xfinity, somebody, anybody with a TV, with an antenna, with whatever, will be able to watch NASCAR races, which makes it honestly the most accessible that NASCAR may ever have been, if you want to think of the top three series all combined. I don't know what they're doing with Cup. The rumors I've heard are the Fox races that start, NBC, and then the summer six-pack with Amazon. I don't know how that's going to fit, because I can guarantee you, as long as it continues on, the NBC will not want to give up the Chicago street race. And I can guarantee you as well that Fox will not want to give up the Coke 600 and possibly Montreal, which has been talked about for next year, which I don't blame either of them, because those would be very big events for both of them for NASCAR. So to me, I don't know. Maybe midweek races might be how they do it. It's going to be interesting. All I'm going to say is NASCAR needs to change. Sports in general needs to change. The NFL is the outlier. Every sporting league has been down with ratings and viewership generally over the last 5 years or so, even taking COVID out of it. So they got to change. There's got to be some kind of streaming options. If it's a perfect world, I say all the races available on TV with an easy streaming option, and maybe since NASCAR Productions is taking over making or producing the races for CW, maybe seeing if NASCAR can have it on their YouTube channel, which would make it more accessible than I think any TV would at this point, because YouTube arguably is the biggest viewing brand in the world for anyone, and especially for sports. But you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it changes. It's a risk. It's a huge risk. But if it pays off, it'll be a huge payoff. I'm not expecting too much personally. I'm thinking the Xfinity ratings actually will go down at first. It's a matter of if this rebrand that they're trying to do actually works. If it works, I think NASCAR is in a pretty good spot. If it doesn't work, or if it just sort of flops or just sort of hovers, kind of like what Live Golf's TV ratings have been doing, there's some issues. Same with the football games they're going to be having. Come football season, how are they going to do that? Are they going to kick NASCAR just straight off TV onto an app? Or are they going to space out the TV windows? How is that going to work? Because I don't want it to become like ESPN all over again. And if any of you who remember back in the day with college football against ESPN, for NASCAR or against NASCAR and ESPN, it was not fun to be a NASCAR fan. You routinely would miss half of races sometimes if a football game went to overtime. You'd routinely miss the start of the fall Charlotte race during the chase. You'd miss a lot of different races because of football. So those are the questions that I think that partners and NASCAR need to answer for the fans. But there's my long-winded answer. I probably went on for like 10 minutes about that, but it's really big. It's a big deal because this is the first new broadcast partner that NASCAR's had. When I say new broadcast partner, I mean has had before they signed whichever contract since 2001 with Fox Sports. Because if you remember, I think NBC Sports did have one race in 2000. I think that was more of a trial run, though, so I guess you could count them. But it's the first time in 2.5 decades that there's a new partner involved in NASCAR. And probably will be multiple new partners involved with NASCAR if you're being completely honest with it, because I think the Amazon thing is going to be really big. But and really quick, speaking of Johnny Benson, I got a text here from my dad. I completely forgot. My first race that I ever saw in person was a truck race at Michigan, and Johnny Benson won. He beat Mark Martin, Bobby Labonte, Todd Bodine, and Matt Crafton. Oh, and then 6th place, Rick Crawford. Ew. Well, hopefully he's rotting in a cell right now. Okay, Alessandro corrected me here. 1999 would I guess be. I could have swore they had one in 2000 as a trial run. No, it's been that long. But it's been a good night, and it's gonna be fun tomorrow. We're gonna be live after the Cup race, and also on Danny B's channel for the NASCAR Weekly podcast. So I am gonna go and enjoy the rest of my night. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night too, and I will see you tomorrow. Night, everybody.